growth perspective, and also just from a jobs perspective and a quality of life perspective. Unfortunately, sometimes transportation funding doesn't rise to the top until it becomes a crisis. Well, I think what you've heard today from the people behind me, from the industry, from the construction industry, from the engineering industry, from the fact that we've had no major projects in the last two consolidated transportation plans, that we don't have any money for highway construction after 2017. As Jim Russ said, that they're basically doing nothing but maintenance at this point. We are at that crisis point today, and it's time for the Maryland legislature to act. We commend and praise the governor and the speaker and the president for finding a consensus to put before the legislative bodies this year. We think it's critically important that it move forward. We're here in strong support of that, and we hope that today's hearing will emphasize the needs that are out there, but also the importance of this for the citizens of the state of Maryland, and also for the economic growth of Maryland as a whole. With that, we'd answer any questions anyone may have.
Mr. Fry, if you could address the Republican concerns about the lockbox. They said it's not strong enough considering what they consider as a low bar as far as the fiscal emergency, and then on top of that, the supermajority of the Democrats in both chambers.
Well, I think all of us in the past have advocated for a strong lockbox provision. At the same time, I think that's important is you have to find a consensus. There's 188 legislators who all have 188 different ideas of how things need to be adopted. Certainly, we think that there needs to be integrity within the Transportation Trust Fund. We think that just having a provision in there, would we like to see it stronger? Yes. Is it perfect? No. But this is a situation where perfect is probably the enemy of good, and we need something good right now to make our state move forward. Any other questions?
A lot of arguments to be made that people are still hurting. We just can't afford to pay a higher gas tax these days. Whole numbers for the proposition are miserable, and how do you explain to the kind of lower income worker that they need to pay more?
Well, look, I think what you have to look to is the fact that probably we have not had a transportation increase since 1992. I don't know that there's ever a good time that anyone is happy with raising any taxes on transportation, or for that matter anything else. But if you've heard the numbers I referenced about the loss of money that's being spent to the Baltimore and the Washington drivers already because of congestion and also because of the lost time, and that's going to do nothing but get worse if we don't take action now. So certainly would respect the concerns that people have, but we think that this is an investment for our future, an investment that will help us move forward with respect to business and jobs, and overall that's what's important for the good of the state of Maryland.
In order to get this through, if it were to become necessary to lower some of the cost or some of the increases in revenues, how much would that be disturbing to you? Is the $800 million annually really a serious needed target, or would you be okay if it came down a little bit?
We certainly think that the fact that we haven't had any transportation funding increase for that period of time, that $800 million is a number that's appropriate. The Blue Ribbon Task Force recommended between $700 and $800 million. That was a couple of years ago. Again, one of the beauties of some of the mechanisms in here, there is some inflationary sensitive components of it that will help as time goes on. But we're far behind right now. It's going to be difficult to catch up. So I think $800 million is an appropriate level for the state of Maryland to move forward. We saw our counterparts to the south just enact a very similar number in their budget process this year. They have similar challenges that Maryland has in transportation funding. So I think overall that's the right number to be shooting for.
This provision with the internet sales tax, isn't that just kind of a gimmick? I mean, is it pretty well accepted that Congress is not going to pass this law?
Well, I'm not an expert on what Congress is going to pass and not going to pass. In fact, I'm not sure if there's too many people that know those answers. But obviously, this is something that has been talked seriously about at the federal level, and I think it's smart on the part of the state of Maryland to be anticipating that this may be a revenue source that could be coming in the future, and if so, that this is an appropriate percentage of a certain percentage of that money from that new revenue source would be appropriate for the transportation fund. So again, I think the other part about this provision is that the governor in the bill has provided that in the event that does not occur, that there's also another implementation step with respect to this increase that would help us get to that full implementation of the $800 million a year.
Talking about mass transit, the $800 million handles buying property, engineering, planning, but won't actually fund any of the actual construction. Is that problematic, or?
I think what's problematic is not having the money to be able to do those things. So this is very important that we be able to take these steps now so Maryland can still stay in the queue for those federal opportunities and for these major projects moving forward. You know, we're not going to answer all the questions that are out there with respect to transportation. That's part of the reason why this is a first step. I think as Jim Russ had mentioned earlier, that's also why it's important that we have as much money as possible, and that's why the $800 million is appropriate under this circumstance. So it's critically important that we be in a position to move forward with the red and the purple line and other major projects so that when the next step is available at the federal level, that we can then look at the issues and figure out how to address them at that time. And I think the regional transportation study dealing with the authorities is another step that helps us prepare for that opportunity.
Don, you may want to mention how it dovetails with P3 legislation.
Right, and the other, Jim pointed out, of course, another key component that's not really part of this, but we have also actively and strongly supported public-private partnership legislation this year that we also think is a part of the solution to transportation and certainly can help supplement some of the projects as we move forward. Anything else? Again, on behalf of my friends and colleagues behind me from both business and labor, from both Baltimore, Washington, and representing people throughout the state of Maryland, we strongly believe that this is an important bill for Maryland to move forward, and we hope that the Maryland legislature will see this and seize the opportunity for us to address this critical issue that's more pressing on the state of Maryland. Thank you very much.